Good morning, everyone. Coming to you from the garage today, about 5 weeks since I last caught up with you all about what was going on with my brother and my 2023 Alaska motorcycle trip. Last time I posted a video, we were in the Seattle airport preparing for our unexpected flight back to Arizona while the bikes were getting prepared to be shipped back to Arizona. I shared a few details in that video about what kind of got us to that point, but obviously if you look behind me, you can see that we do have some updates. The bikes did arrive back earlier this week and were delivered directly to my local Harley-Davidson dealership. As you may recall from the last video, the Pan America that I was riding had some overheating issues up in Alaska, and they were not able to properly diagnose what was going on with the bike and why it was not only overheating but also giving off a whole bunch of codes in the diagnostic computer. So that kind of necessitated the decision to ship it back here. So both bikes were dropped off at the dealership, and I'll share some details on the Pan America in a minute about what was going on with that bike, because they were able to successfully diagnose the problem. But we then went up and picked up the Suzuki. So as you can see, I got my little helper back here today. It's gonna help me get this bike back into shape, because when they ship a bike, or at least in my situation, they kind of took it apart so it would fit on a wooden base and then a little bit of a shipping platform. So not a lot of tremendous work we got to do to get this thing back together, but clearly they took the windshield off. It looks like they broke one of the hand guards when they were disassembling it, or when the shipper was handling it. So I got to put that back on. A lot of the parts, they just kind of zip tied in bags here. Took all the luggage off. I already did a little bit of work on it. We had a lot of it just kind of strapped down in bungee straps to the side so it would all fit inside the shipping container. But I haven't touched this bike at all. But again, this bike ran flawlessly the whole time on the trip, so this bike wasn't the issue. The only reason we had this one shipped back was because I didn't want my brother to be heading off through Alaska by himself while I was on a flight back to Phoenix. So that's kind of the mission for today, is to get this thing back together, and then we'll give it a good wash, and then it's going to go up to the Suzuki dealership to get its service that was scheduled for the conclusion of the trip. Regarding the Pan America, I did have a lengthy conversation with my local dealership up in Scottsdale before the bike even arrived about a lot of the issues that I was having with the bike up in Alaska. So they were somewhat prepared when it arrived. And when they got the bike, I wasn't expecting really an update for, I don't know, a week or so. I told them they could take their time with it to diagnose what was going on. And I got a call within about 3 or 4 hours after the bike was dropped off, where they had let me know that they'd already figured out what the issue was. And just to summarize quickly what happened up in Alaska, the bike was overheating. Mike and I were on a wet dirt road called the Dalton Highway, which gets you to the Arctic Ocean from Fairbanks. And we got a little bit of rain, and it caused the dirt road surface to get a little muddy, and it was kicking mud back up into my radiator and into my air intake, clogging the air filter. So thought that was all it was, but once the dealership up there cleaned out the radiator, cleaned out the air filter, they still weren't able to get the bike to run cool, and the bike was giving off a whole bunch of error codes as well, indicating something else could be wrong. So the local dealership noticed that same situation when they plugged it in. They also took a good look at the air filter and the radiator, got it all cleaned out well. But then they noticed that also the electric fan was not coming on once it got to temperature. So they took a look at the fan, and it was still pretty caked up with dirt and mud as well. And so they spent some time going through the fan, getting that all cleaned out, and then started the bike up, and it was still running hot. And then they were about ready to give their, put their hands in the air and give up on it for a little bit as well too, as they tried to figure it out. And then all of a sudden, they heard this big ka-thunk, chunk, and a big piece of dirt that had hardened to the consistency of like a rock came flying out of the fan. So what essentially had happened is a big clod of dirt got into the fan and hardened, preventing the fan blades from spinning and cooling the bike down. So once that happened, the bike started running cool at temperature, and all of those codes went away. So apparently the diagnostic electronics system on the bike, if there is a legit problem, that will throw off a bunch of other codes that might be unrelated, which is unfortunate because it kind of sent the guys up in Alaska on a wild goose chase when this really was the only problem. The fan wasn't operating and the bike, as a result, wasn't cooling like it should. So anyway, the bike's up there. They're giving it a good detail. It's getting its 10,000 mile service, and then that one should be back in action as well too. But again, the project for today is to get this Suzuki put back together, get it washed, and then get it off to its service. So just thought I'd provide a little update on the Alaska trip. So that's all for now.